Hey folks, this is Fernando doing another video for the Modern Survivalist. I was asked about which would be a good option as a first knife for a child. This is my son's Victorinox and this is his fixed blade knife. This is a Hulta Forge. I actually bought this knife for him when he was 8 years old. I actually had my nephew with me as well during that time. We were on holidays, so I bought one for each. One for my son and one for my nephew. My nephew was about 9 years old, so both ages were pretty good. Regarding which age is best, anywhere between 8, 11, it really depends on how responsible you consider the child to be. And sometimes you have to be careful because as parents we are a little bit blinded by the lack of perspective. We think our sons are maybe more responsible than they may be at times, so you have to be as objective as you could possibly be. And if you consider that it's the right time, then just go for it. Don't worry too much about what could possibly happen, as long of course as you see that they have the basic responsibility. I think it's a good idea to first start with showing them how to use a knife. Maybe not just give them one away, but show them with some other knife how to use it responsibly, safely. Little by little, as you see them become more responsible, handling it more safely and such, it eventually gets to the point where you can just go and say, yes, this is yours, this is your knife. And even then, keep an eye on it and be around as they're using it, especially during the first period of time. As for which one would be a good option, this is a question that I got recently. I think the Victorinox is actually a very good choice. I bought for both of them the exact same knife, the Victorinox Explorer, which is this one. It has a main blade. You have a smaller secondary blade there. You have a little magnifying glass, screwdriver, cap lifter, bottle opener, small screwdriver, can opener, Phillips screwdriver with a good amount of reach there. And you have, kids love this stuff. They love all the little tools, and of course they are handy little tools. So it's understandable why. I mean, us, even adults, like them, so you can see why. Yeah, well, you see the little spring there, got a little side twisted a little bit. Yeah, maybe a little bit more fragile. You have the rammer, punch, owl, corkscrew, and hook. And then you have your tweezers there, and of course the toothpick. The nice thing about the Victorinox is that it's so well recognized. Pretty much every kid out there has seen one and probably wanted one for quite some time. So when you give actually one to one of them, they really like it, they really appreciate it, and it's definitely a big deal for them. And besides its quality, it's Victorinox. Anything that goes wrong with it, it's easily fixed. I was just noticing right now, even the spring there has been twisted a little bit. The spring here and the scissors, you see how it goes sideways like that? It's actually very easy to fix. It's not a big deal to replace one of these. I've replaced many of them through the years. It's just a matter of buying the spare part, the spring, pushing it out there, and just placing a new one. So everything in a Victorinox, is either under warranty or easily sharpened again, fixed and such. And there are spare parts, even if you lose the tweezers or the toothpick, you can buy those again. That's the nice thing about Victorinox. Helps a lot that it's such a classic design and time tested over the years. That makes it even more appealing. Now, it is true that it's not a locking blade, but here's where some proper instruction on safe handling will come a long way. Teaching them how to hold their knife properly is important. First of all, explaining that it's not a toy. It's a tool. It is to an extent it can be dangerous, so they have to be careful. Make sure there's no one around fooling around, none of their friends playing, goofing around. So find a safe place to work, get a good grip on your knife, never move, always away from the body and body parts, you know, not sitting with your legs crossed in front of you and whittling wood like that, and all of a sudden skipping on it and stabbing yourself or cutting yourself like that. Those are little techniques that you start teaching to them, but also keeping an eye on them. It's not just about saying it, it's about keeping an eye on them working and using the knife, and you noticing yourself, seeing for in actual practice that they are understanding and keeping it safe. And of course, oiling the knife, sharpening it as well, keeping it clean, which in this case is not awfully clean, but it's understandable, especially for small kids. But this is definitely a good option. The Victorinox is definitely a good option. It's not a locking blade, all right? And yes, there is always a risk of the blade closing, but if they're using the knife for the intended purpose, explaining that as well. It's not for throwing, it's not for playing sword fights, it's not for prying with a blade or anything like that. It's just for cutting. It's a cutting tool, and you should only be using it for that. So as long as you stick to that, it's we've all used Victorinox for how many years, and eventually there's always a risk of being cut. I've been always careful about explaining how to close it properly, keeping your fingers out of there, grabbing it with confidence and pushing on the back slowly until you get there. And if they do those things all the time, the chances of getting cut will be significantly reduced. At the same time, it can always happen. You can always get cut. It's happened to all of us. So it's just a matter of taking it easy and trying to minimize the risks. The Victorinox, definitely. This is maybe, if I had to buy it again, maybe if I had the option, I would have gone with the Huntsman, Huntsman 2, I think it's called. It has a saw, it also has the scissors, but instead of having the magnifying glass and the Phillips screwdriver, it has that nice saw, which is the same saw that you have in the Hiker. The Hiker is a great model as well. For a kid, for a first knife, it's a knife that works very well. It's a pocket knife that works very well for even adults without any issues. It's, for many people, this is all they feel they need, and they can make a very good, very strong case for that. So the Hiker, it's another excellent option. I think the Hiker is going for 20, 25 bucks. The Explorer is a little bit more expensive, about 49, 50 bucks, give or take. The Hiker is definitely a great option. You have your main blade there as well. You have your screwdriver, cap lifter, bottle opener, can opener, smaller flat screwdriver, the mentioned saw, and a smaller blade. And instead of the corkscrew, you have a much more handy Phillips screwdriver, and the owl or rammer, whatever you want to call it. And it is, especially thinking of a child, it is, just 2 layers versus 4, so it is lighter, more compact, maybe makes more sense for a kid. Now, some of the other options that you could keep in mind, well, the classic Spartan Victorinox with, it actually has 2 layers as well. It's a little bit thicker. The Hiker, the Spartan, is even thinner. Great option as well. You have just your main blade there, smaller one, large screwdriver, cap lifter, small screwdriver, bottle opener, corkscrew, and owl or rammer. Good option there. Some folks make a good case for having a locking blade instead, and the Delica by Spyderco, it's a nice little small knife that holds on quite well. So as a folding knife with a locking mechanism, the spine lock here in the Spyderco, this is a good option, even for, as you see, the color for girls as well. It's not just about boys. Girls also like joining the Boy Scouts or the brownies, I think it's called. So yeah, it's also a good option. A small Delica like this one definitely works well. You also have, you don't have to just stick to this. Maybe you can go with a multi-tool. And as you see, I'm making some suggestions here that are not extremely expensive, because with a child there's always a chance of it getting lost. So on one hand, you want something that can last a good amount of time and work well for them, and hopefully if they're careful enough, maybe stays with them for many years to come, even into adulthood. Ideally that would be the case, but you also have to consider that maybe they can lose that knife, so you don't want to be spending a ton of money. The Leatherman Sidekick is actually a great option. It's a, of course, a proper multi-tool with, nice set of pliers and all. But then you have a blade that can do pretty much anything that you can get out of the Victorinox. Right? If you look at the actual size, it's really not that different. Actually, it's pretty much the same. And this one actually locks into place, making it a little bit safer to handle, to use. So the Leatherman Sidekick, definitely an option to keep in mind. And of course, eventually you do want to get them a proper fixed blade knife. There's nothing really as strong in terms of pen knives, pocket knives, comparing it to a fixed blade knife. And again, you don't want something that's awfully expensive, because they can lose it, which is something that's very likely to happen. Then again, you want something that is quality and will not let them down when they need it, and will serve them for many years to come. I went with a Hultafors. It's a Hultafors knife. It's the heavy duty version, which has a thicker blade. My son has been using it for cutting wood for starting fires and such, and whittling wood and so, and it's definitely a good knife for that. It's carbon steel, which means it stains, rusts easier, but for the basics of learning how to use a knife, it's definitely a very, very nice knife. The handle is comfortable. You have a good finger guard there so as to protect the hand. So again, the basics of using the knife safely, good grip there. Even for smaller hands, you have a little bit more real estate, but even for smaller hands, he has no problem handling this knife. And again, you explain them how important it is, to properly grab the sheath, pull the knife out and such, how to handle it to other people as well, how to pass a knife along to someone else, safely so. All those things that you want to be teaching them, one of these tools will probably come in handy and will be most likely appreciated by them as well. Folks, just a few little pieces of advice here and there so as to keep in mind for your kids as they grow older. Don't rush it, but when you think they're ready for it, just enjoy it and take care. Have a great day. See you on our next video.